Good day. I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. We've got co-CEOs Steve Bromley and Rients from Organto Foods joining us. Organto is a global provider of branded, private label, and distributed organic and non-GMO fruits and vegetables. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. And just a quick disclaimer here, this is not investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. So gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. And please tell us about Organto.
Great. Well, thanks, Martin. And thanks, everyone, for joining today. Really appreciate you joining and thrilled to have the opportunity to introduce you to Organto. I'm Steve Bromley. I'm chair and co-CEO of the company. I'm joined today on the call by Rients who's late at night in the Netherlands, and joining us, and also by John Rathwell, who joins us as well. Rients is co-CEO and also CEO of Organto Europe, and John is our Senior Vice President of Investor Relations. And you'll get to know all of us during the call today. So a little bit about Organto. As Martin indicated, we're in the fresh organic fruit and vegetable business. We have a very fast-growing platform. A little bit about our business model, and then we'll dive into the details. We have an asset-light business model, so we don't own farms and we don't own manufacturing facilities, but what we like to say is that we own everything else in between, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that in a minute. Today, we serve about 170 customers across 21 countries in Europe with product that we source from around the globe from 5 continents, and Rients will spend more time talking to you about how we go about sourcing and adding value to these products. We have a diverse and very flexible product offering, and so we feel really well positioned in that we can service whatever consumers are looking for. Our focus is on organic. We also do non-genetically modified. And then we do bulk, private label, and branded. So we can climb and go up and down the full value chain for what consumers are looking for. We have a multifaceted branded product offering in addition to private label and bulk. So we have 2 core brands, again, that Rients will talk about. We have the I Am Organic brand, which utilizes our proprietary digital passport technology. Then we have the Awesome Fruit brand, which we just launched back a couple of weeks ago and is now in the market. And that's focused on non-genetically modified fruit products. And Rients will talk more about that. We have a very proactive acquisition strategy. We've acquired 4 businesses over the last 2+ years, which are, adding nicely to our platform. We have an experienced team in place. We also have a great board in place, which I'm happy to introduce to you in a few minutes. And we should really look at us as a growth platform. We've had 4 consecutive years of record revenue growth versus the prior year. Even during 2022, when markets turned down, we had double-digit growth, which we were quite proud of. And we have an exceptional outlook for 2023 that we'll share with you. But we really look at 2023 as a key year for us. We like to say that we add value from farm to fork. And so if you take a look at this chart, we don't own the growing and the initial processing. We partner with growers and processors around the world. And we leave the growing to growers that really know what they're doing. And we leave the retailing to retailers who really know what they're doing. We handle everything else in between. So we're involved in supply chain. We're involved in having the products further processed. We add value in different packaging formats. We brand, we market, and we get the product to market. So we add value at every stage along the way, which is really important. We're not a broker. We take ownership of inventory, and the inventory is ours to further add value to and then sell. And we do that through, all the value that we add throughout the supply chain. And even though we're not growers, we provide value to our growers with the people that we have on the ground, assisting with growing techniques, assisting with certification, and aligning their product demand with what we think is out there in the market. So we add value from farm to fork. Our mission is... Yes.
Just going back to that, when you talk about adding value, can you give some examples about where, because in some ways it's like, okay, we're going to order some grocery chain, Loblaws wants to order some bananas. They pick up the phone and say, give me a ton of bananas.
Yeah.
And as we've all probably learned over COVID, supply chains get tricky. Can you just sort of detail and what I'm getting at is this is not an easy thing, especially with fresh fruit products, to get it from farm to fork. Can you walk us through some of the value added steps and some of the let's say, the complicated or challenging things that you guys have to work through to help out the farmers and then ultimately the retailers who are relying on you to stock their shelves?
Yeah, sure. No, happy to do that. Let's just stay with bananas as an example, right? So first thing is you can't just be sourcing bananas from one place around the world, because when a drought strikes or bugs strike or whatever the case might be, you're going to have yourself a problem. So we're going to be sourcing product from more than one location. We're handling all the supply chain and in hand with the grower, right? So how does that product get from the farm to the cooler, from the cooler to the container, into the container, on the water, or in a plane, whatever the case might be, in order to get that over to the retailer? And then what do we do to add value? In the case of bananas, we'll be involved in ripening the bananas. We'll be involved in preparing the banana with the proper label to go to market. If it's using our branded technology, we're providing all the digital passports and getting all that linked in, so that the consumer can go to that digital passport and find out where the product came from, how it got to them, all of that. And then, of course, once the product has arrived in Europe, we're handling all the logistics to get the product from the port to our further processing, and then from our further processing to the retailer. And so there's value points all along the way. It takes a lot of coordination. Martin, I don't want to make it sound like there's a lot of, trick or witchcraft in making it happen, but you have to be good at this. Like, you have to know what you're doing. This is fresh product. Like, it doesn't last forever. When I was with Synopta, we had soybeans. You had a year and a half before that soybean went bad. If you're dealing with organic asparagus, you've got 10, 14 days, right? And so you got to move quickly. And so that's really what our expertise is. And growers don't have that expertise. Like, they don't want to be involved in doing what we're doing. And frankly, the retailers don't really want to be doing it neither. And so that's our secret sauce and value add.
Yeah, retailers want to order it, know they're working with a trusted supplier who's going to get it on the shelves. And if there's a problem with a container going haywire, you worry up at night on it. They don't worry at night about it, right?
Yep. And we do worry about it all night long sometimes.
Yeah. You mentioned your digital passport. Do you want to talk about that now, or is that later on in the?
We're going to hit to it shortly, and
okay.
But just to sort of hit on it, Martin. We've developed for our I Am Organic brand a digital passport technology. It uses QR codes, and then the QR code, which is on the product that we're selling, links the buyer to a digital passport, which is proprietary in our back office, which lays out all the provenance with regards to the product. Where did it come from? How did it get to me? What's the carbon footprint? What's the nutritional profile? Where do I go to find recipes? Who do I talk to about this? And so, consumers today are saying, I want to know where my food came from, and I want to make sure you're not cutting down the rainforests and causing global warming in order for me to get this product. And so, our belief is organic foods have a wonderful story to tell. We want to tell it. We want consumers, hey, yeah, this is where this came from. It was grown, with fair trade principles. There was no, unfair treatment of people in the supply chain. This is what the carbon footprint is of this particular product. This is the nutritional profile. Here's recipes. Here's things you can do with it. And it's been very well received by people. And especially Martin, the sort of millennial Gen Z crowd. This is the first generation that are really, really worried about what sort of a world we're going to leave to their kids. They're in the heart of global warming. They're in the heart of a lot of these challenges. And so they're making purchasing decisions around those very principles. And so providing them with that data. And one of our covenants is we don't want any more packaging than you have to have. And of course, back in my day, that's how you communicated all this stuff. You did it on the packaging. Well, now people don't want the packaging, right? That's bad for the world too. I want the least evasive packaging concept. So the way to do that is with this technology. So we're really excited by it. Rients will talk more about it. I took half of Rients' thunder away on him.
All right, well, I'll let you continue on here.
So our mission is to make organic fresh fruit and vegetables available for every consumer. We think that aligns with today's trends, but really, organics are good for people and they're good for the planet. They're a healthy eating option, and their growing practices are also healthy for the world. We're not here to say that genetically modified foods are bad or anything to that effect. We're just saying what we focus on is the organic and the non-GMO, and there's lots of room for everybody. We believe our business is really well positioned. Healthy foods is a growing category. We're right smack in the middle of it. Our asset-light business model is flexible, adaptable. We can grow from that platform, so we feel that we're really well positioned. 3.5 years ago, if we were chatting, Martin, we were serving 20 customers in 3, maybe 4 European countries. Today, 170 and over it's actually 21 countries, sourcing from around the globe. So we feel really positive about that. And sourcing is very important. You can't just source from one place. If you're sourcing from one place and the weather turns bad, you're not in a good situation. And we've really built out a diverse and value-added product offering that we'll talk about in a minute. So we feel that we're really well positioned to serve these eating categories. Our company started in 2015 through an RTO. For the first 3+ years, the company ran an asset-heavy business model. We actually had our own farms. We had our own manufacturing facilities, and the numbers speak for themselves. Very low revenues, inability to get product to market. We realized that we weren't growers, and we shouldn't parade around thinking that we are. So we became an asset-light business model, started partnering with growers around the world. I've had 4 consecutive years now of record revenue growth. We were on a nice clip with regards to margins, and you'll see that, and we'll talk about it, but in 2022, misery loves company. It was a tough year from a margin point of view. We've seen progress as we came to the end of the year, but it was a tough margin year, and we're quite excited. But we've really built, and our business has evolved. Our asset-light model is working. We've had, our largest revenues last year, 14 consecutive quarters now of record revenue growth versus the same quarter in the prior year. We've got our 2 brands launched. We've completed acquisitions, got a strong team in place, so we're really feeling good. A little bit on 2022. It was a challenging time. I like to tell people I've been in the food business for almost 40 years. I never remember more things happening all at the same time. So we had rising inflation, which was pushing costs all over the place. We had, currency fluctuations, which were challenging. We had the global supply chain challenges that came from COVID-19, and that continued throughout the year. We've navigated all of those. We still were able to, and by the way, the Russia-Ukraine war, very relevant to us, given that we go to market in Europe. We lost about 15% of our revenues to customers that we had in Russia. We followed all the sanctions, and when those sanctions came into place, we had to pivot. We've added new countries to our customer list: Romania, Czechoslovakia. So we've continued to grow. So, we had 12% year-over-year sales growth. We had close to 20%, 23% currency-adjusted sales growth for the year, and that included the loss, and that absorbs the 15% loss in Ukraine. So it was a tough year. I think we've done lots of learning. Even the old veterans in the industry did lots of learning on some of the challenges that came from last year, but we're really excited as we look into next year. And one thing that I wanted to mention, Martin, is that consumer dynamics. The world has certainly gone through an evolution, and demand for healthy foods continues to grow. Inflation, though, is eroding purchasing power. And so we're seeing a lot more demand for private label and lower cost options. And obviously, organic is not the lowest cost option in the store. We also see consumers seeking healthy and convenient options, non-traditional delivery methods, like they want product online, they want it available for pickup. Not everybody wants to go into the store anymore. Home cooking continues to be a trend through the pandemic, and obviously the demand for sustainability and transparency. And we really like where we're positioned. So we have a wide range of products. So our goal is to serve organic, but we do non-genetically modified. We've always done non-genetically modified. It's about 35% of our portfolio at times. We do that because our growers have non-GMO product, which, we want to help them with. Our customers want some of that in their product assortment as well. And so we've had that for quite some time. And so we can provide either one of those, and we can do it in bulk, in private label, or branded. So if it's the low cost option that the retailer and the consumer wants, we'll do it in bulk if they wanted it, so we have the options, and we're in multiple formats. Rients will talk about our customers, but we have online customers, we have bricks and mortar customers, we have convenience to go customers, and we have distributors as well. So we feel really, really well positioned there.
Steve, going back to that, if I walk into the fruit and vegetable section of my local grocery store, well, you're focused on Europe. Like, I don't buy your products in Canada or North America, right?
Not yet.
Okay. Is there anything in that fruits and vegetable section you don't carry at this point? And I guess asking it maybe for later, but are those non-areas you're servicing, are those growth opportunities, or are there strategically you're not targeting certain product groups?
Yeah. So there are certain product groups that we're not targeting because they're not, like, example, there'll be big suppliers who do one product, and they do tomato, and and tomato is big enough that most of the retailers may go direct to the grower on that. Like, it's just that big, there's shiploads of stuff moving. We're more on the specialty crops. Rients will take you through the product lineup in a second. Those are growth opportunities, but look, there's no use we want to create a point of differentiation and bring some value, and we can't bring value in some of the core really big products that the big boys play. You'll have a tomato grower, you'll have a tomato supplier, and there'll be a large conventional supplier, like the volumes are massive, and they'll do some organic, and they'll sort of take that niche away. I'll let Rients comment on that some more when he's presenting, but you're not going to see every product from us.
All right.
We'd love to do everyone, but I don't think I'm young enough. And then we sell in multiple formats and in multiple channels. So as I mentioned, we'll provide these products in online and retail, and Rients will talk a lot about that in just a second. Real quickly, our long-term growth strategy is to build out a differentiated, ethics-driven. Ethics are really important to us. We want everybody in the supply chain to be treated fairly, one-stop shop in value-added specialty fruit and vegetables. So we don't want to be a one-trick pony with one product. We want to have a broad range of products. Retailers and our customers want that. They would prefer not to have one supplier of every darn product that they have. And so our being able to handle a basket of products drives leverage and efficiency for them. And so we do that. We have 4 core strategies, 3 operational and 1 acquisition. So Rients will talk about our strategies, but our first strategy is to build supply and build our product offering. You can't sell what you don't have relationships with as far as growing and effectively set up supply chains. So we're constantly working on that. We're constantly working on building our brands, because brands have better margins and we can add more value and we can differentiate ourselves. So building brands is important. We have to be good at the bulk and the private label in order to be good at the brands, and we do that. And then last is build infrastructure. One of the things about growing a business is you have to have the right people in the right chairs at the right time, and you have to have the right support for them, or you're not going to be successful in building out a company. And so I'm very proud of the team that we've assembled and put together, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then lastly is our one-stop shop acquisition strategy. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but our goal is to make 1 and 1 equal 3. And then the 4 acquisitions that we've completed so far, we're comfortable that has been the case. And so we're continuing to move that forward. The markets for healthy eating continue to grow. Organics are expected to have about a 14% CAGR over the next 4 years. Fruit and veggies are the fastest and largest growing category in organics today. And consumers, if they have the choice, they choose health over affordability. Now, we'll see how that plays out here over the next period of time. And as I indicated, we're prepared for that not to continue to be the trend. And so we're able to provide affordable solutions as well. And with that, why don't I turn it over to Rients? And Rients, you can just let me know when you want to move the slides.
Yeah, perfect, Steve. Now, as Steve was mentioning, we're serving approximately 170 customers in 21 countries. And we're serving them with organic fruits. You got to think about tropical fruits like avocado, banana, mango. And we serve them in various options. So we serve them ripe, yellow bananas. We serve them green bananas. We serve them single-piece bananas. We serve them private label bananas, non-GMO bananas, and of course the I'm organic banana. To continue in the fruit category, think about the hard fruit, which is apples and pears, and soft fruit as well. Our assortment consists as well of vegetables, asparagus, fine vegetables, and a category we like to call tastemakers, under which we group organic herbs, mushrooms, and ginger and turmeric. We can flip the page, Steve. Just as well as we have a broad range of categories and also segments and SKUs in our products, we also solve or serve multiple market segments. Of course, traditionally bricks and mortar supermarkets, retailers in Europe, leading retailers like Edeka in Germany and Rewe with both over 10,000 stores. But we also serve organic specialty retailers across Europe, like Ecoplaza, for instance, in the Netherlands. We serve food service. Astridena, a good example of a fully organic food service company supplying in Denmark schools, companies with a broad range of organic foods. We serve online and e-grocers, of course, a very interesting segment, some of which a bit more mature than other ones, but interesting developments, of course, going on there. And where we as well see a lot of growth is on the convenience to go. We see a lot of travel, high traffic travel places like train stations or gas stations, where the retailers on those locations are continuously looking for interesting, more healthy solutions. And then, of course, our hand fruits, which we call apples or bananas, are a very, very good alternative, and also give us a very good opportunity to give a lot of visibility to our brands. And on that side, we're serving already multiple very interesting chains in Germany as well, and in the Netherlands. Can you go to the next page?
Sorry, are there any segments in the, like you've got like traditional retailers, food service, online, are there any segments that you haven't targeted yet, or that you're not targeting as it doesn't fit? They're too low margins, or some aspect of it you don't like?
No, I think we are really active in most of the areas that we can be active. Of course, we have our preferences. You have triple A class type of markets, which provide you the right type of planning, the right type of opportunities to create your value, to create visibility, to build a relationship. But at the same time, we're dealing with a product from nature, and not everything comes in as consistent as you would get a product from a factory. So it's very important to be quite broad and diverse in your market options.
Gotcha. And on the country side, you're in 21 countries. There are still some spots in Europe where you're not in. Is it just a matter of time to get there, or you find like partners before you enter a country? Are there any dynamics about specific countries you operate in before you move in?
Well, I think for us the most important thing is to be in the countries where the biggest market shares are currently when it comes to organic fruits and vegetables. And then, of course, markets like Germany are very important, and that's why we're so excited to be actively engaged with so many strong German retailers at the moment. France is a very fast and upcoming organic market in Europe as well. We also see a lot of opportunities in Central Europe. That's where the organic that's where the organic category is not so much developed yet. But again, that's why the mix between non-GMO and organic is very interesting for us, because in the logistics supplying those markets, we can make a good combination on volume on non-GMO and organics for growth. And then we are actually the partner for those retailers like Ahold Delhaize, which is very active in the Netherlands and Belgium as well, but also in Central Europe, to be their partner for growth. So you also always got to think a little bit about the logistics. We have the fortune to be based in the Netherlands, where the infrastructure around logistics is one of the most powerful ones in the world. We have the main ports very close to us. We have very strong airports as well close to us, and the road logistics are phenomenal. So I would say from a European standpoint, logistically, there's not a lot of countries that may not serve properly, but of course, volumes and to get the right economies of scale in supplying a certain countries is of course important when we enter.
All right.
When we talk about global and local supply, we like to call it. We'll travel as far as we need to travel, and we'll go as local as we can. And I think the best way to describe that is to speak about our mango category, where I think we use close to 15 countries of origin year round in order to get to a stable supply for retailers, for which we most of the time have to go quite far overseas. And next to that, we also work a category like fresh cut herbs, where we happily serve Dutch consumers through a Dutch retailer with a year-round assortment of fresh cut herbs, which part of the season comes from local Dutch growers, and other parts of the year it comes from Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese farms, for instance. So as local as we can make it, we will do it to minimize the footprint, to bring consumers back in touch with the product that they get from the farms that are neighboring from where they live, and from overseas origins where we can go as well. Which ties in as well a little bit to the ethics part. We believe that there are many very strong economies that are supported overseas by the great products that they produce and supply, and that we are very proud of bringing into European consumers. Good to also focus a little bit on the brands. The flagship brand that we have is our I'm Organic brand. What we have basically tried to do with this is that when we were looking at the organic fruits and vegetable category, we saw great product, and because it's our business, it's our DNA, we know all of the ins and the outs of a product. But in reality, if you are an average consumer and you enter a store, you see a great looking banana, but that's what you see, right? Or you see a great looking mango, but that's what you see. You don't see the story, the identity behind it. And that was one of the biggest drivers for us to create the brand. We thought that product has a story, and the story has a value to a consumer. And today it's not being told. So that's how we started in developing the I'm Organic brand. We use QR codes. That's nothing innovative on its own, But on our side, QR codes brings a consumer in the whole world where we give this product an identity. So we'll tell the consumer first and foremost everything about taste, because if you buy a product and you don't appreciate the taste, you're not going to come back. So the product has to be tasteful. We'll give information on the nutritional values. We'll provide inspirations on how to use a product. We'll tell you everything about the supply chain that you want to know. If you want to stay high over and you just want to see a small gimmick on how it moved, that's what you can follow. If you want more background information, you can go deeper into the digital passport. All of our I'm Organic products are carbon neutral by offsetting, because in some cases that's the best thing what we can do today. And we try to explain how we see insetting, so really making it neutral by itself in the future as well. We try to do all of this in a fun and in a easy, accessible way, because we believe organic vegetables should be available to everybody, and we like to make it very accessible in that sense. At the same time, what Steve was describing as well, we can't close our eyes for what's happening in the world, and we can't close our eyes for what's happening in the wallets of the consumers that we're trying to serve. So that's why we also have the Awesome brand, and we have a lot of private label concepts that we provide to our retailers, in which we try to give mid-tier options as well. The Awesome brand is also very interesting because if you look at the political agenda of Europe, we have the Green Deal, which is all about transforming existing production capacities into organic. And the Awesome brand can also be used as a very interesting transitional product lineup, because when you're in transition from conventional fruit into organic, you cannot certify it officially yet. But of course, there's more value that you have already in the product. And to send it again anonymously into the market is something that we feel doesn't fully justify the real value that we're bringing.
Great. With let's say on you do carbon offsetting for your organic products, that obviously increases your costs. When you work with the retailers, obviously, are they suitably compensating you for that? That's part of it. That's important to their brand when they're selling it, so you're able to capture the appropriate margins, and so you get paid for the extra work you do.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The offsetting that we do today is only on our I'm Organic branded products.
Yeah.
So we don't offer the offsetting in a private label or in the Awesome brand, for instance. In reality, if you calculate really down to a consumer unit, what the price is of offsetting is very acceptable. On one single banana, it's 3 to 4 cents, I would say. So it's not a significant amount. At the same time, we think it's very important to take that responsibility. And it's such a huge topic at the moment in Europe, but I think it's everywhere, for sure in the Western world, that we are so much more aware of the footprint that we're leaving. So, and again, it's another reason why the product cannot be anonymous. You got to show the identity of the product, and you got to show the footprint of the product. So I think we are quite advanced on this side, because we provide a commercial translation to offsetting in fruit and veg, and in creating a connection which goes beyond that offsetting towards consumers. So we're actually quite excited about this, and we're not concerned that that couple of cents, that it's an increase to that, is not a value that consumers are unwilling to pay.
I'm curious, the retailers, so many companies are getting pushed to report their carbon footprints, and not just their store, but what goes in and out of the store and all of that. Is that an ultimate where the retail industry is going to go, is where they're going to ask all their suppliers to, we need to know what your carbon footprint is. So really, you're just like ahead of the curve on this. Is that a way to look at it?
Yeah, I definitely think that is the case. I think if you go back in food or in fruit and veg in general, there are a couple of movements that have taken place around certification levels, around traceability, for instance, that were first added to only a certain type of set of retailers or a certain type of product groups. And you see the same thing with social certificates, for instance. And we definitely believe that this will go into this direction. If you want to be responsible and you want to be, as a consumer, using your buying power to create an impact, you got to make it visible. And you'll be surprised, because there are certain products, when you eat an apple that's coming from your local apple grower, but actually it has been stored for 6 or 7 months. It's far more global friendly or environmentally friendly to take it from an overseas region, because that carbon footprint is much smaller. So we really believe it will become the norm, and there's many interesting steps in between, and we hope we can take a leading role there. Okay. And again, while we are very passionate about building business organically ourselves, building up the product groups that we already have, of course, these type of things do take time. It's not that you can enter tomorrow and you think, well, bananas is an interesting product, let me start importing it tomorrow, and then you can do it. It takes time to find the right suppliers, to find the right strategy on how to take it to market, to know how to really orchestrate the supply chain. So that really takes time. So in that sense, the buy and build strategy, our acquisition strategy, is incredibly important as well, to be able to further expand our product range. I was referring a little bit earlier to the interesting position that we have in Germany. It's partly also because of the recent acquisition that we have done. So that's another reason to do it. So we believe that the mix between building business and buy and build is a very interesting one for us to use as well in our growth strategy. Just touched on it already a little bit. The acquisition that we have recently completed, and we're actually fully busy with the integration at the moment. It's a very nice business called NFG. It's a German-based business in terms of its retail distribution. It's asset light, exactly the same thing what we have. Complementary in its product portfolio, bananas. We were really focused already on the yellow bananas, the ripened bananas in organic specialty retail. They are more focused on green bananas in mainstream retail, so very complementary to each other. Together with their position and our position on avocado, that straight away becomes a very important product group for us as well. And they were very advanced already on the mango side. The retail and market position that we both have is very complementary. Their relationship in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic is a lot of value to us. They had a non-branded product portfolio, but we were really trying to see on how they could also provide their products with an identity. And actually, when they saw what we were doing with our brand, that was also one of the drivers for them to join us. And we're very happy with the guys that we have on board. To give you an example, they were based in outside of the Netherlands, in Germany and in Italy. And from the first moment we completed the deal, they said straight away, we want to be based at your main office in the Netherlands. They picked up their stuff, moved in, because that's where they saw that they could create most of the value together with us. So a lot of synergies, a lot of nice energy that's flowing around at the moment, and we have a projected revenue of 15 million euros for the year. And as I was saying, this is also what they bring: the global supply relationship, top-level retail listings, asset-light, experienced team. And again, we have the infrastructure to now really scale it. We have the logistics, the back office, the combination of their green bananas and our fresh cut herbs in their customer profiles is a very, very interesting one. Of course, our publicly listed side is very interesting, and the branding as well. So all in all, that's why I believe the 1 and 1 will equal 3 there.
Reeds, can we just go back to the prior slide here with the NFG? So I'm curious, when you do acquisitions, you're buying the relationships with the farmers, the producers, you're buying the distribution. They may have customer relationships with different retailers that you don't have. Mm-hmm. And I guess is when you're growing the business, is the toughest part getting new customers, or is it tougher getting new suppliers, or kind of a bit of both? Like, to someone who doesn't know the fruit business, once you got the expertise, couldn't you just phone up a farmer and say, hey, we want to buy your bananas or avocados, and then get a new listing at some other retailer? Or I just want to dig into a little bit what these acquisitions bring.
I think that the most important thing, what you want to achieve, and you can see that a little bit as well through our evolution. And that's why I think we're at such an interesting moment in our evolution as well right now. You need a certain order book in order to be really successful. At the same time, if you have the order book, but you haven't done your preparations at source, that order book won't stay long with you, right? So it is the mix between the two. It is the maturity in your market segments that will also allow you to really pick up on a full production that a grower has to offer. Not all of the product will come exactly in a certain retail specification. For instance, that beautiful retailer in Germany, there will be other sizes that you need to take into other countries. That's why, again, those 21 countries that we are serving today is a very strong point. That's why the 170 customers that we have across multiple market segments is very important, because a retailer will take a mango in a smaller size range in a 2-pack or in a single unit. That's really a good fit on their shelves. But that mango tree is not only going to produce that size, it will produce a range of sizes. So if you go to food service, you will find again a bigger size of fruit. So it all ties in together. And funny enough, even in Europe, although it might sometimes seem from the other side of the world that Europe is one country, there's still a lot of difference between a French consumer and a German consumer. So there's also difference in sizing and in the way that they are being served. So the value really comes, to answer your question fully, the value comes when it's really mature on your supply side and when it's really mature in your distribution side. That's why this acquisition and the complementariness of their tropical fruits, their markets, and what we have created is so powerful.
Well, it sounds like I didn't appreciate how much benefit you get from scale. So when you buy the mangoes from some place, they've got some small ones, some bigger ones, some beautiful ones, some not so good ones. The beautiful ones, I guess you can brand as I am organic. The not so good ones you sell in the bulk market, and you can kind of find the best price for each quality or classification. But where if you were small, you'd maybe be stuck with some product and wouldn't have a place to put it in the best way.
That's spot on. I think scale is extremely important for us from more than one angle. generally speaking, compared to other business segments, we are in a business that's relatively high revenue and low gross margin. So in order to make that really profitable and to be efficient there, you need scale. And that's why we're also so focused on creating that scale. And that's why we believe that we're at such an interesting phase as well in our evolution.
Thanks, Rients. So maybe just to pull this all together and wrap it up. So, we really are excited about 2023. Rients spoke about the acquisition of the new fruit group, bringing size, scale, and depth, and scale being so important. We've certainly expanded our retail listings over the last period of time, and we're driving strong growth from those retail listings. Our I Am Organic brand is now firmly in the market and gaining traction. We've introduced the Awesome Fruit brands, which is growing nicely from just early days of launch. We're expanding supply and we're adding critical volumes. And so, we have new suppliers that join and become part of our supply base. Current growers, many are anxious to grow and expand with us. And so we're able to do that. Rients and the team will be at a show in Berlin next week, Fruit Logistica, and Rients and the team will have visits from numerous suppliers from around the globe that want to work with us. So expansion of supply is very real for us. We have an experienced team in place. We think we have the nuts and bolts of a team that can take the business to 100 million in revenues, which is exciting, and we have a strong acquisition pipeline. So 2022 was a bear for many, and we've worked through that and continued to grow, completed the acquisition, and have done a lot of good things to really position us well for 2023. And what does that all mean, and what do we think is really exciting is that we've guided to our sales being up 135%. So that puts us over 50 million in revenues. Our gross profit being up 200%, which is a combination of the sales growth that we have, the resolution of challenges that we had in 2022 due to some of the macroeconomic challenges, shift in mix to higher margin products, cost reduction through supply chains as we get scale. So we see nice gross profit growth. And probably most importantly, we see ourselves achieving EBITDA break even as we proceed through the back half of the year, which is really important. When we went to an asset-light business model, the question was, could you sell it? We sold it. Then the question was, can you make margin? And we showed that we can make margin, albeit 2022 was a tougher year for all the reasons that we spoke about. Now the question is, can you get to EBITDA positive? The answer is yes. And we have the resources to get there. And so, we're really, really excited. And so what we're seeing really is the culmination of 3, 4, or 5 years of working this asset-light business model and getting ourselves to a position where, we're now getting to have some size and scale and are excited about what the future holds. Real quickly, just to wrap up, Martin, if you don't mind, you've met myself and Rients. John's on the phone. Ralph Langner is our CFO. Based in Canada, really handles all the public company side. I'm proud to put our public company reporting and governance up against any company of this size. And then we have a similar CFO in Europe, a gentleman named Peter Taboje, who really works closely on all of the operational finance and reporting. I'm exceptionally proud of our board. I want to point out that we have a suite of directors here who we're just blessed to have on our board. Jeremy Kendall was the founder of Synopta. If you don't know Synopta, it's a $1 billion market cap Canadian and NASDAQ listed company. It's where I spent 15 years of my career. He's a builder. He understands organic foods. We're thrilled to have him on the board, as is Joe Riz, who was a founding director and actually worked within Synopta for a number of years. We also have 3 European directors, including Rients, but 2 that I'd like to point out. Gert-Jan van Noordwijk is the former president of the International Grains and Feed Trade Association. He is all about supply chains, and he's operated global supply chains for his entire career. and certainly provides a lot of expertise for us in how to think about new supply chains and the items that you need to be thinking of when you do that. And Joost Verest is a brand marketeer, so he's spent a lot of time in the produce industry. He was with Chiquita. He's been with Sara Lee. So when you see our brands, you can feel the influence that Joost has provided. On top of that, Alejandro Maldonado is president of the Berry Growers Association of Mexico, and he's a grower in Mexico, so he provides great expertise. And Peter Gianoulis was the founder of the company, and remains on the board. So we have a great board, and they're more than a board. They're advisors. We pick the phone up and call these people all the time. We probably abuse them as directors, but we're happy to do that, and they're happy to do it as well. We don't pay our directors cash compensation, so it's all, it's all based on the performance of the company. And so, really proud of the leadership team and of the board. Quickly on our capitalization, we have about 284 million shares outstanding, about 331 on a fully diluted basis. Our market cap is in the $35 to $40 million range. You can see that our stock has traded much higher over time when we were nowhere near the company we are today, but such is life, and that we believe that looks after itself on its own accord over time. And obviously, we're trying to get the story out there because we think we have a great story to tell. There's a lot of companies that were in our space 2 years ago, peers. A lot of them aren't here today. A lot of them have totally missed what they were, setting out to do. And we feel we're really comfortable, that we're moving in the right direction. So, and as we like to say, we have to deliver more than organic growth. We've got to really drive the benefits of this business. So, Martin, with that, we'll stop and turn it back to you.
All right. We have some questions from the audience, which is great. I want to hit on a couple of points as well. And there actually is a question from the audience, and how come you're in Europe and not the US? I think you piped in, Steve, saying not yet. Could you discuss how soon? It sounds like the plan is eventually to get into the US market or outside of Europe. Is it a this year event, or are you just waiting for the right opportunity to pounce? Could you flesh that out a bit?
So two things, Martin, that I think are important. One is, how did we get to Europe in the first place? Because the company really started out of a South American operation. The European footprint is very much it's consolidated, but the stores aren't as big, and there's a lot of smaller concepts that you can get into. And so, after the team got going and realized that, holy smokes, like when you're dealing in North America, you're dealing with Costco, you're dealing with Loblaws, you're dealing with the big guys. And when you're a small guy, you can't deal with the big guys, right? You just don't have what it takes to be relevant to them. I give the team at the time really kudos. They decided, no, the place to go is Europe. They had expertise in the European market. And so they could start with some smaller footprint type operations where the size and scale that they had worked. And I think it was absolutely the right thing to do. Do we want to be in North America? Absolutely. We came close to being in North America last year, an opportunity that we had fell through. We do believe that we're better to buy in North America, buy the distribution mechanism, than build it. It takes a long time to build, and we've done the building in Europe. So we'd love to be there this year, and can never predict the future because we're not going to build in North America. We're going to hopefully, acquire a platform that we can then bolt on to our system. We're active in that. Hard to predict the future, but if you were to ask us all, we'd say the sooner the better, but we got to do it right. And when the time is right, we'll do it. Doing
a North American acquisition, you wouldn't gain so much on the customer side, although there are some cross-continent clients there. Your biggest advantage would be you'd be able to leverage your producers, your suppliers of fruit, and sort of up your game right away going into the U.S. market, right?
Yeah, both. And, it's incredible how many of our customers in Europe are in North America, like Lidl. Well, they own Aldi here in North America, so there's a lot of cross synergy, but for sure on the supply side, because there are times of year where certain suppliers, their product doesn't fit into the European market, but it works in North America. Well, look, we'll handle both sides of that now. And, Reed's talked about size, there are different sizes that happens in North America too. Like, and I'll probably get it wrong, but I think North Americans like larger avocado than Europeans who like a smaller avocado. So we can just be much more influential and relevant to our supply partners. And there just aren't people doing it, so it's a really unique opportunity for us.
All right, I'd like to get a little nerdy here on your accounting, or not your accounting, but your cash flow. In that, one of your mitigating steps to inflation was having shorter term pricing commitments, and I guess shortening up. Can you just briefly explain how, like, if a retailer orders a bunch of avocados, like there are no futures markets like there is for wheat or anything like that. How do you sort of lock in prices, make sure there's margins there, the time frame, like how far in advance do they order? I just threw out a whole lot there, but just simply, how does that all work? It sounds very complicated.
I'm going to try and simplify it because there's a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
As a general rule, we're trying to go back to back. So if there's a commitment from a grower, we're going to back that into a commitment from a supplier.
Okay.
If it's short term. In products like bananas and longer term things, we'll contract on an annual basis. Both sides are contracted. We'll hedge the currency in the middle, and we'll move forward. But the concept here, what we try and do, and not to nerd out on the balance sheet, but if you take a look at our balance sheet, we have less than 300,000 in inventory. We don't carry inventories, that they don't stay long. Like, when a container arrives, it's in our inventory long enough for us to get it repackaged and gone.
So it's an inventory from when you pick it up from the farmer until when you drop it off at the retailer?
It depends on the relationship with the grower. Often it's not our inventory until it arrives in Europe.
Oh, okay.
It depends. Like there's different type of arrangements, but often it's not our inventory until we see it in Europe.
Yeah.
We'll have paid in advance on that shipment. But that advance is of course contingent upon what ends up happening with the final product.
If you lock in with a supplier and a buyer, and then you lock in the currency, what if there's a storm or a drought and it's like there's a force majeure kind of a situation? Do you have to find another supplier, or is it sort of accepted that contract falls through, or how does that work?
It's accepted. It's accepted in the industry that, look, stuff is going to happen. There's going to be a couple of rainy weeks where our volumes may be down. Now, what we try and do is to have alternative sources of supply. And, like you don't get caught off guard that it's going to be rainy. Like, you can look into the advanced forecast and our team will look and go, yeah, we're probably, in week 11 and 12, there's a chance of weather in Dominican Republic. And so let's go to Ecuador here and try and batten the hatch on that a little bit. We try to do that because we prefer not to have our customer have to deal with it. But if it happens all the time, like it's just the nature of the fresh industry.
Well, I'm my background's actually from the food industry, not the fresh foods, or from candies and so forth. But I always found when the retailer had a problem, even if you could solve the problem, they all of a sudden you're a value added supplier. It's like, hey, we know even if it's our problem, but you fixed our problem, we're going to go back to you because we can trust you. And I guess that's how you're trying to position yourselves as well.
Yeah. Look, we've got people that wake up every morning and think about avocados. We got people that wake up every morning and think about mango, banana, asparagus, ginger, herbs, tastemakers, and their job is to understand the dynamics as best you can. You never know when there's a tsunami, right? That just sort of wipes out something. You couldn't plan for that.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. And so we've got alternative sources of supply, and that's what sets us apart from others. And we're far from perfect. That's the secret sauce that sets us apart.
Well, that's why we also believe so much in the asset light strategy, right? So that allows us to continue to have the flexibility to really solve those problems, right? How do you get the right quality, the right type of service levels into your retailer? And you just have to assume that sometimes they're bad weather, but that's why we work with alternative sourcing options to really make sure that we have the flexibility to get the product to market.
Taking some questions here, reading them out here. One of the key metrics is your gross margin evolution. Before 2022, it looked like you were on a good trend. So how confident are you in stabilizing and growing the gross margins again steadily into double digits?
I think we were definitely on the right path, and then of course we were hit by inflationary issues in 2022, which some of them you can solve very quickly, and other ones take a little bit more time. We are, however, confident that we are finding that way back up again. In some cases, adding value, the smaller pieces of adding value means also that you have a bit more influence of that inflational pressure. But again, I think we feel quite comfortable that we can get back at it.
One of the challenges in emerging brands and consumer products are slotting fees to get on the shelf. Do you have to pay slotting fees and shelf space in the produce fruit department?
No.
Okay.
No, and we're blessed on two fronts. One is in the perimeter of the store, even in North America, the slotting fees aren't as big. And in Europe, slotting fees aren't as big an issue, period.
Oh.
Compared to, well, they are, but compared to what we deal with here in North America, like slotting fees can literally tear you apart.
Yes.
If you pay for a listing and it doesn't deliver, it can be really, really tough. And so we're very fortunate in that we've never paid a listing fee.
All right, we should wrap things up here. And one thing I always like to wrap things up with is news flow wise over the next quarter or a few quarters here. What sorts of things should we be expecting from Organto beyond the regular quarterly results? Do you announce big customer, like new listings at large retailers, or of course, if there's an acquisition that would be announced? What sorts of things to keep our eyes open for?
Yeah, well, you should always be watching for us to identify big new listings and new customers. We very, very seldom tell you who the customer is, because it just sort of opens the door to the guy reading the press release to go figure out how to hammer you when you tell people. But we try and give an indication. So new customers, new products, acquisition opportunities, progress that we're making on some of our core initiatives, all area, and new supply when if we bring on a new product and new supply. We've grown the product list as well. And, I talked about the number of customers. In 2018, we had 3 products, and today we have a nice basket. And so we're continually adding products. We start to add a product long before we tell you about it, because we build the supply chain and the network first and make sure that it's going to work before we make it a core offering. So, we'll play. I don't want to, choice of the word play is the wrong choice of words, but we'll take on some small supply and work with a couple of key customers and work the supply chains and make sure that we've got it nailed before we decide to go mainstream with a product. And they all don't cut it for us. We'll try a product, and if it doesn't work, then, we can't, or we can't get an efficient supply chain. There's lots of fruits and vegetables in some corners of the world that is just fabulous fruit. But the effort to get it to market, no, forget it. You got to go through the jungle and you got to get by, the corrupt port operator, and it's just, forget it. We can't go to that region.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. That was a great story. Looks like 2023 is going to be an exciting year for you guys. So thanks a lot for joining us. Love to have you back as the business progresses and we get some updates.
Love to be back. So thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.